The very first thing this man did after becoming a vampire was step into the sunlight. Everyone knows that sunlight is a death sentence for vampires. But little did they know, after I turned, I gained a time-based ability. Sunlight actually makes me stronger. Silver City. Inside an old, rundown building. Wearing a face mask and holding a briefcase, Yushan accepted a pen-shaped syringe from the black market dealer and asked, "Boss, which generation is this blood from?"
Third generation vampire blood. But I've got to warn you, injecting vampire blood can turn you into a vampire, sure, but you'll be off the books. In other words, a rogue vampire. If the Blood Clan finds out about you, you'll be hunted by the entire clan, and especially by the purifiers who won't stop until you're dead.
The dealer looked at Yushan and spoke slowly. Hundreds of years ago, the first vampire was born after consuming the forbidden fruit, transforming from human into something else. Now, the Blood Clan has become a powerful force in human society. Only humans who pass the Blood Clan's trials and evaluations are allowed to receive the first embrace and officially become vampires. Such vampires are accepted and protected by the clan, but they must also serve it. In the past, some tried to assassinate vampires and use their blood to turn themselves for the sake of immortality. Without exception, all of them were eventually tracked down and executed by the purifiers. But Yushan didn't have that kind of time, nor the patience for the Blood Clan's trials. He was just a high schooler who had recently inherited a small factory from his deceased father. Enough money to be considered well off, but nothing crazy. If nothing had gone wrong, he would have graduated, taken over the factory, and passed it down to his own son or daughter one day, just like his father had done. But something did go wrong. A year ago, he was diagnosed with ALS. It was genetic. His father had died from ALS as well. A terrifying, incurable disease. Only the supernatural world offered any hope of treatment, but those treatments came with sky-high price tags. For example, hiring a healing-type esper to cure him instantly would cost around 100 million. Even if he sold the factory, he could only scrape together about 20 million at most, nowhere near enough. Other treatment options cost 60 to 70 million at a minimum, and came with weird and dangerous side effects. Eventually, after spending a lot of money on research and consultations, he found a black market shop that claimed to sell anything. After selling off the factory and a storefront, he finally had enough to buy vampire blood. It was his only shot at survival. Once he injected the blood and turned, his ALS would vanish. The trade-off? He'd have to live on blood for the rest of his life and become vulnerable to silver and sunlight. Here's the final payment. Yushan pulled out a silver ring and held it near the pen syringe to confirm the blood's authenticity. Once he was sure the syringe held real vampire blood, he placed the briefcase on the table and immediately turned to leave. Back home, Yushan quickly shut all the curtains, then sat down in his bedroom. He took off the mask and carefully pulled out the syringe. As he stared at the blood inside, an uncontrollable joy crept across his face. He wouldn't have to die. When he got the ALS diagnosis, it felt like the sky was falling. He drifted through life for a month and a days before finally summoning the courage to face his fate and start fighting for a way out. Lately, he had started losing strength in his hands. Sometimes his legs went numb. He knew the end was creeping closer. But now, he still had time. He stripped off his clothes. Once he calmed himself, he slowly injected the vampire blood into his veins. A chill spread from his bones, and his mind started to go hazy. Sleep overtook him. He laid down willingly and closed his eyes. In that final moment, he could feel his heartbeat slowing. Slower, slower. A full day and night passed. In the darkness, Yushan turned over. He suddenly realized something and snapped his eyes open. The next second, he shot upright in bed. "Did I do it?" he muttered to himself, then pressed a hand to his chest. After about a minute, a smile crept onto his face. His heart had stopped beating. That meant he'd turned. A vampire's heart beats only once a year. It's said that every 10 beats grants a minor ability. Every 100 brings a major one. So the longer a vampire lives, the stronger they get. And with enough blood, a vampire can slow their heartbeat to once every 6 months, accelerating their growth. That's why even when vampires aren't hungry, they still feed. Every newborn vampire gains a starting ability. Yushan recalled his research and focused on feeling for any changes in his body. First, he ruled out active powers. Those were like eating. You just knew how to use them. As long as you weren't brain dead, they came naturally. Since it wasn't something he could activate at will, that meant it was a passive ability, which made things trickier. Passive abilities usually only revealed themselves when triggered. "I'm kinda hungry. Good thing I stocked up on blood packs." Yushan didn't sense his new ability yet, but he did feel hungry. He got out of bed and habitually flipped on the light, then froze. His body was absorbing the light. No, that wasn't quite right. His body was devouring it. What the hell? Normally, vampires aren't harmed by indoor lights, but they still dislike it. Bright light can even cause mild discomfort. But right now, not only was he not uncomfortable, he actually felt good. Wait, is my first ability light eating? Yushan stared at the ceiling light, the uncertainty on his face gradually giving way to joy. He quickly moved to the window. Ever since he decided to become a vampire, he had replaced all his curtains with blackout drapes. But he knew it had to be daytime outside. I can feel it. Even through the curtains, the sunlight's hitting them. I can feel the warmth. But I don't feel any pain. In fact, I want it. Yushin grabbed the curtain with one hand, took a deep breath, and yanked it open. Light flooded the room, banishing the darkness. The morning sun poured in, bathing him in its glow. The hunger disappeared instantly. He could feel it. He was feeding. On sunlight. He was an anomaly among vampires. He fed on light. He was a light eater. Third floor balcony. Yushin is lying on a lounge chair, wearing sunglasses and enjoying a sunbath. After weighing the pros and cons, he picks up the phone beside him and dials his homeroom teacher's number. After a moment, he speaks. Mr. Chen, it's me, Yushan. Previously, he had applied for a leave of absence, claiming he was needed to manage a factory. Originally, he was prepared to drop out of school, but once he realized how powerful the Sun Eater ability was, he understood that being a student was actually the perfect cover. No vampire goes wandering around in broad daylight. Even if a vampire got suspicious later on, a little investigation would completely clear him. After explaining things to his teacher, Yushin confirms that he's re-enrolling and will be officially back next Monday. Once again, a good student basking in the spring breeze and sunshine. Splash! Just as Yushin puts down the phone, he suddenly feels his heartbeat. He immediately presses his chest, eyes filled with disbelief. Wasn't it supposed to beat only once a year? Or once every 6 months if he had enough food? He'd only been in the sun for half a day. Hiss! Yushin sharply inhales. Sun Eater, this might be even more powerful than he'd imagined. Because of the abundant sunlight, his efficiency in absorbing light far exceeded a vampire's ability to drink blood. Theoretically, he was far better nourished. He didn't need 6 months or a year. A single afternoon could make his heart beat once. If his heart beat once or twice a day, he could get a minor ability in 5 to 10 days, and a major one in just 100. Even if the vampire progenitor had lived for centuries, Yushin estimated that he could surpass them in less than 10 years. All he had to do now was survive, quietly and steadily grow stronger. Monday. Early in the morning, Yushin wears his school uniform, shoulders his backpack, and strolls toward Silver City High School number 3, bathed in sunlight.
Dude, it's really you. I thought you dropped out.
Halfway there, a slightly chubby teen runs up to Yushin, excited. That's Zhang Shou, Yushan's go-to lunch buddy at school. Yushin smiles and says, "The problem's sorted, so I'm back a bit early." Once he gets to school, he still has to formally submit the re-enrollment paperwork, but since he'd already talked to the teacher, it'll just be a quick form to fill. The two chat casually while strolling toward the school gates.
Want some soup dumplings? My treat.
Smelling the aroma from a breakfast stall nearby, Zhang Shou swallows and offers. Yushin shakes his head. Already ate. You go ahead. Since becoming a vampire, he only has 2 sources of sustenance, blood and sunlight. The former is standard vampire fare. The latter comes from his unique gift. Of course, he can still eat normal food. It just tastes like cardboard and doesn't digest at all. Vampires are supernatural beings by nature. Even without special gifts, they already possess traits like night vision, heightened senses, rapid healing, and superior physical capabilities. Unarmed, a vampire could easily take down a dozen trained soldiers. Yushin had only been turned 3 days ago, so his body was still adapting. For now, he could maybe handle 1 or 2 soldiers. More than that, and he'd get wrecked. Like most vampires, he'd gradually grow more androgynous and refined in appearance. His frame would become leaner, more elegant. This was one reason wild vampires struggled to stay hidden. Their traits were too obvious, and since they could only operate at night and needed blood to survive, it was easy to track them down. If Yushan hadn't returned to school, once those traits became too noticeable, the Blood Clan would definitely come looking. But being in school changed things. After all, being attractive and slender wasn't exclusive to vampires. Plenty of humans who'd consumed forbidden fruits and become elves had the same look. Yushin didn't have pointy ears, and he could walk in the sun. At most, the Blood Clan might think he was some elf-human hybrid, not a vampire. The two entered the school. Their classroom, Class 3 of senior year, was on the 5th floor. By the time they reached it, Zhang Shou was a little out of breath. Seeing Yushin still fresh as ever, he raised an eyebrow.
You been secretly working out or something?
Check that out. Yu Xian didn't bother explaining and pointed diagonally across the street to change the subject. Right across from Silver City High was the Academy for the Gifted. Technically, it was separated by a street, but from the 5th floor, they could see it clearly. The Academy seemed to have stepped up security. Suits patrolled the perimeter in plain sight.
You mean those bodyguards? I heard the vampire princess got attacked recently.
Zhengshu said it casually, clearly detached from the drama. Normal people and those born with supernatural powers were divided by an unbridgeable chasm. Despite being right across the street, the students of the two schools hardly interacted. Vampire princess? Yu Xian looked toward the Academy for the Gifted, his heart skipping. Could the blood he was injected with have come from her? In fact, despite the schools being so close, even if no one actively followed the Gifted Academy's affairs, random bits of strange knowledge still made their way into their own school. Yu Xian honestly didn't know who spread that information. But thanks to it, he learned that once someone became a supernatural being, their fertility plummeted. Since the vampire progenitor, most vampires were created through the first embrace, transforming humans. Naturally born vampires were exceedingly rare. The Academy for the Gifted had 6 vampire students. Among them, the highest ranking was the vampire princess, Nora Rexus. It was said she was a hybrid born from a second-gen vampire and a human, causing major controversy within the Blood Clan. Some believed the first blood rule should be upheld, while others saw her mixed heritage as impure and wanted her cleansed. Her father fought off the opposition, protected her, and sent her to study in Silver City, far from the Blood Clan's core. Because her father held great power among vampires, she earned the title Vampire Princess in Silver City. Hey, Zhang, what's the Vampire Princess's special ability? Yu Xian asked as they walked. Zhang Shou thought about it and shook his head.
Forgot. One of the girls in our class gossiped about it. Said it was something really unusual.
You mean her gift? I know, it's Daywalker.
Just then, a girl walking ahead turned around and chimed in.
That's why the vampires criticize her so much. She's the only one who can walk in sunlight.
Zhang Shou gave her a thumbs up and joked.
Chen Ling, when it comes to gossip, I bow to you.
Daywalker. Yu Xian's heart skipped again. That confirmed it. The blood he got must have come from Nora. But now he wasn't sure his student disguise would be enough. What if the Blood Clan started wondering whether a wild vampire who'd been turned using Nora's blood could also walk in sunlight? Late at night, in the basement of a villa in Silver City. Under the dim lights, a dozen blindfolded men hung upside down from the ceiling.
Big talk for someone with so little ability. If money can buy anything, I wonder, can it buy your lives now?
A long-haired young man in a tailcoat with a cold and almost androgynous face stared at the bold intruders before him. As he spoke, the killing intent in his voice grew stronger. If he didn't need to interrogate them about the whereabouts of Nora's blood, he would have carved them up and fed them to his dogs already. As Nora's guardian in Silver City, Roche bore immense responsibility for the attack on her. Truth be told, Roche felt it was completely unfair. Nora was a daywalker, able to walk in sunlight. He could only assign human bodyguards to protect her. She was attacked while shopping during the day. What was he supposed to do about that? Right after the incident, he mobilized all the vampire forces in Silver City and finally managed to intercept the culprits before they could escape. Honestly, he hadn't expected these people to be just regular humans, not a single supernatural among them.
Start talking. The blood you stole. Who'd you sell it to?
Roche walked up to one of the young men, lightly slapping his face before calmly asking. The young man was clearly the leader. During the capture, he'd nearly wounded Roche's men with silver weapons.
Didn't recognize him. He wore a mask, probably had makeup under it too. Even in our line of work, there are rules. Asking about a client's identity is a big no-no. That's all I know.
Despite the circumstances, the young man stayed calm and gave a straightforward answer. Roche sneered, then suddenly plunged his hand into the neck of the man hanging beside them. The victim convulsed and screamed as blood streamed from the wound, flowing into Roche's hand to form a slender blood blade.
You've got your rules. I've got mine. Let's see whose rules matter more.
Roche smiled viciously. What followed was a chorus of tortured screams and the chilling sound of flesh tearing echoing through the basement. Finally, before moonset, silence returned. Roche ascended from the basement, took a white towel from his assistant, and began wiping his hands carefully. He spoke casually.
Tang Bo, take a team and dig into this. The thief who got Miss Nora's blood should be about the same age as her, comes from a family with some money, and likely withdrew over 25 million recently. Shouldn't be hard to track.
Understood. I'll hunt the bastard down and then...
The assistant bowed slightly as he responded, but before he could finish, Roche cut him off.
Bring him back alive. Miss Nora will handle him herself. The Duke says, it's time she gets a taste of blood.
Normally, even if her bodyguards were killed, Nora wouldn't be easy prey. She was no ordinary human. As a vampire, her physical abilities far exceeded those of a normal person. Even armed assailants wouldn't have kept her from escaping. But she'd panicked at the sight of her bodyguard's death, froze up completely, so much so that ordinary people using silver managed to injure her. If those people had been out for her life, she'd be long dead by now. Silver City. Number 3, high school, class 3, grade 12. Yushin sat by the window in the 4th row from the front, left side of the classroom, reading a novel while basking in the sunlight. Past 1:30 p.m., sunlight poured directly into this spot. Even with the curtains drawn, you could feel the heat. Yushin used to hate this seat, but now he liked it just fine. As long as he had enough food, vampires didn't need to sleep, so during the day, he obediently stayed at school, soaking up the sun. At night, he practiced combat techniques at home via online courses. Yushin knew all too well. He had one foot in the supernatural world now. Whether he liked it or not, the day would come when violence was necessary. The best he could do was prepare in advance. Only with preparation would he avoid freezing up when that moment arrived. Lately, his stamina had grown exponentially. Things he used to find impossible were now easy. Take one-finger handstand push-ups. He could now do 1,000 of them without breaking a sweat. His strength was increasing by the day. He could hang from a wall with just a finger and not fall. His single arm punch packed more than a ton of force, enough to kill a bull in one strike. He had no idea how his strength compared to other vampires. Nobody ever talked much about how strong vampires actually were. It was always the werewolves, witches, knights, and martial artists who had the reputation for brute power. I wonder what kind of ability I'll awaken. He closed his book, rested his head on the desk, and let the sunlight wash over him, filled with anticipation. His heart had already pulsed 9 times. If all went well, today he'd reach the 10th and awaken his first minor ability. There were online resources, or rather publicly available info from the Blood Clan, listing the minor abilities: Bat Control, Blood Flame, Enhanced Smell, and Dormancy. To Yushan, Bat Control and Blood Flame were top tier. Enhanced Smell was decent. Dormancy? Absolute bottom tier. Dormancy wasn't useless though. Most vampires' first minor ability was Dormancy. It drastically reduced energy consumption during sleep and helped stabilize and heal injuries. The downside was that during dormancy, vampires were incredibly vulnerable and barely aware of their surroundings. There had even been cases where regular people stumbled upon wild vampires' safe houses and killed them in their sleep, earning themselves a spot in the Blood Clan. So for a wild vampire like Yushan, unless he had a completely secure place to sleep, he wouldn't dare use dormancy even if he had it. The midday sun blazed even hotter. The student in front of him had drawn the curtain, but Yushan left a sliver open to keep the sun shining on himself. Second period was history class. Yushan propped up his history book, then slouched down to enjoy the sunlight. The history teacher's voice was like some kind of spell. It didn't matter that he wasn't tired. Yushan still found his eyelids drooping under that hypnotic drone. Suddenly, his heart pounded hard, so violently it snapped him out of his drowsiness. This heartbeat was even more intense than the last, as if a surge of power erupted from his heart, flooding through his body's energy channels and limbs, then slamming into his brain. He swore he heard thunder in his mind. Some force was crystallizing in his soul through his bloodline. In that moment of clarity, he suddenly understood exactly what ability he had awakened. His first minor ability was an active one, called Silver Blood. Vampires fear not only sunlight, but also silver. While silver isn't as deadly as sunlight, it does suppress a vampire's ability to heal. Normally, if a vampire is well fed and their heart isn't severely damaged, most injuries heal quickly. But if the wound is caused by silver, it becomes incredibly difficult to recover. Many vampires who lie dormant are actually those who were seriously wounded by silver weapons. After school, back home, Yushan immediately rummaged through his drawer for the silver ring he used before to test things. It's said that even touching silver gives vampires a burning sensation, and prolonged contact can cause the skin to rot. But Yushan held the silver ring in his hand and felt absolutely nothing. This counts as a minor gift? Most vampires probably don't even have a major gift this insane. Yushan crushed the silver ring into a lump, confirming that thanks to his newly awakened gift, Blood of Silver, he was now immune to silver's weakening effects on vampires. However, the main ability of Blood of Silver wasn't just immunity to silver, but that Yushan could now consume silver and convert all his blood into silver blood. Once his bloodstream was fully transformed into silver blood, his physical abilities would be greatly enhanced. He could also use the silver blood to form whips or threads to attack his enemies. Being immune to silver damage was just a side bonus, really. Clearly, this wasn't just a lucky gift, it was the luckiest of the lucky. Yushin opened his mouth. His vampire fangs slowly extended. He pressed the lump of silver ring to his fangs and instinctively sucked. It felt like drinking a lump of jelly. Once the silver entered his body, it quickly merged with his blood. Too little. Yushin could clearly feel the silver merging with his blood and becoming silver blood. Compared to his original blood, which was already turning cold, the silver blood was slightly warmer, like a current of heat flowing through his body. It didn't hurt. In fact, it felt kind of good. Yushin took a moment to adjust. The craving for silver only grew stronger, but it was hard to get a large amount of silver these days, and he didn't have the money to buy much. Mainly because the Blood Clan had been buying up silver in bulk, driving the price even higher than gold. And the Blood Clan never sold silver back into the market. No one had a clue where they were hiding it. It's worth mentioning, there's a rule among the Blood Clan. Anyone who contributes over 10 tons of silver can become a vampire without passing any trials. Sure, becoming a vampire through that route wouldn't get you into the clan's inner circle of power, but immortality alone is tempting enough for rich folks afraid of death. The Blood Clan's immense wealth was, in large part, thanks to those rich people who joined through this method. Yushin racked his brain all night, but still couldn't figure out how to get more silver. He thought about going to the black market, but that place was way too shady. They even dared to attack the Blood Princess Nora. No way was he going to mess with them again. Silver was important, but staying alive was more important. He'd rather slowly save up and collect silver items from the general public than ever go back to that place. Morning. Yushin was out on the balcony, sunbathing like always. But today, something was off. Every now and then, a nasty stench hit his nose. It smelled like a dead rat rotting in a pile of garbage. It made him feel sick. Weird. Why does it keep smelling like something died? He got up from the lounge chair and sniffed around. The stench appeared again, then vanished the next second. Wait a second. Yushin realized something. It was only when the heat flow of the silver blood passed through his nose that he smelled the stench. Meaning, the silver blood enhanced his sense of smell when it flowed through his nasal passages, allowing him to detect odors he normally couldn't. He deliberately directed some silver blood to his nose. Sure enough, the stench returned. Following the smell, he looked over the balcony and spotted the source, downstairs. This neighborhood was mostly middle to upper class. The family downstairs had 3 members. The husband was a lawyer, the wife ran a clothing store, and they had a daughter in 4th grade. No way! They can't all be dead in there, right? Yushin held his breath against the stench, mumbling to himself. But he just saw them going out yesterday. Even if they had died, it shouldn't reek this bad so soon. Forget it. Yushin wasn't the type to stick his nose into other people's business. He dropped the thought quickly. It was almost time to leave for school anyway. He slung on his backpack and headed out. On his way downstairs, he ran into the daughter from the family below. She was also leaving for school. He had a sudden thought and directed the silver blood to his nose. Instantly, a powerful stench hit him from her body. It was awful. Yushin quickly redirected the silver blood from his nose to his right eye. The smell vanished. But then, through his enhanced vision, he saw something beneath her skin. Countless red worms squirming and tangled together. Yushin's trypophobia almost kicked in. At that moment, she looked at him and said, "Good morning, big bro upstairs." As she spoke, silver light flickered in Yushin's pupils, and through her mouth, he saw the worms twitching like tendrils. "Morning." Yushin forced a smile. Then he quickly rushed down the stairs and walked toward school. On the way, Yushin frowned. Every now and then, he caught whiffs of the same stench from passing pedestrians. A year ago, Wrong City was shaken by a huge national scandal, the Wrong City incident. In short, an entire middle school in Wrong City had their students and faculty taken over by a mysterious brain-eating parasite, without anyone noticing. If it weren't for a student who had secretly consumed a forbidden fruit and transferred into Wrong City number 1 high, the horror might never have been uncovered. Thanks to that incident, Silver City's government ran a citywide health check. It was during that check that Yushin was diagnosed with ALS. Because of the diagnosis, he lived in a daze for the next month. He didn't even pay attention to what came out of the tests. He never imagined that the parasites from Wrong City had silently spread to Silver City. This was going to be a serious problem. Should I report this? Yushin hesitated. If he reported it, the government definitely had the firepower to wipe out the parasites. But they'd also launch another round of citywide screenings, and there's no way his identity as a rogue vampire would stay hidden then.
Hey, deadbeat, what are you thinking about? You're really zoning out.
Zhang Shou's voice snapped Yushin out of it. He looked over and saw that Zhang hadn't been infected, which made him feel slightly relieved. It's nothing. Just didn't sleep well. Yu Xian replied flatly. Zhang Shou yawned and asked,
Don't tell me you stayed up all night reading that forum too?
What forum? Yu Xian asked, clearly confused. Zhang saw he genuinely didn't know and explained,
The forum. It's literally called That Forum. You should check it out sometime, especially the forbidden fruit section. Some people track forbidden fruit appearances and predict where it might show up next. If one ever appears in Silver City, I'm definitely going for it.
Not everyone was content with being a follower. Whether joining the Blood Clan or any other power, it was nearly impossible to surpass the ancestors. So some ambitious folks set their sights on the elusive forbidden fruit, and so that forum was born to serve their needs. But Yu Xian had no interest in such forums. He was far more concerned about the parasite problem right now. A third of the entire school have already been parasitized? Yu Xian arrived at school and carefully observed all the students during break. What he saw made his heart sink. The situation in Silver City might be even worse than in Wrong City, and it's only a matter of time before the parasites are exposed. Once that happens, he'll inevitably be dragged into it too. This issue is urgent. The situation could explode at any moment. I've got to do something. Yu Xian returned to the classroom and pulled out his phone to carefully go through all the news reports on the Wrong City massacre. These parasites were officially named aberrants 6 months ago, but their method of transmission remains unknown. However, research shows that once the aberrant's eggs enter a host organism, they quickly enter the bloodstream and eventually take root near the heart. Then, countless tiny tendrils burst out of the shell. These tendrils release a liquid that numbs the host's sense of pain, allowing them to silently devour the host's flesh and blood via the circulatory system, leaving only the host's brain intact. At this stage, the host still retains their self-awareness, but loses all external sensory perception, left to experience endless fear and despair in the dark. It's an extreme form of psychological torture. In the host's deepest despair, the aberrant gradually consumes the brain. Once the brain is fully digested, it instinctively begins to mimic the host's behaviors in every detail, becoming nearly indistinguishable from the original person. This mimicry allows the aberrant to hide itself effectively. And during this process, the aberrant begins to realize it is not the original host, but an independent entity that has inherited the host's intelligence. If the host is human, the aberrant gains human intelligence, making it incredibly cunning and difficult to deal with. This is the aberrant's final form. Because large numbers of eggs are found inside these final form aberrants, they are classified as the adult stage. During the Wrong City massacre, several adult aberrants appeared. It took the lives of several ant-rank officers and many SWAT operatives to take them down. Even so, many people went missing. Authorities believe those missing individuals may have been adult form aberrants and are still on the run. If she's still conscious? After reading all the information on aberrants, a random image flashed through Yu Xian's mind of the little girl waving to him that morning. Without realizing it, his grip tightened and cracks began spreading across his phone screen. Shit. Snapping out of it, Yu Xian noticed his phone screen had gone black from the pressure and started checking it in a panic. After selling his factory and shop, his only source of income was a 3-bedroom rental unit. If he didn't start saving, he wouldn't be able to afford enough silver anytime soon. Noon. A sudden commotion erupted outside. Students in the classroom started heading out into the hallway, all looking down at something.
Bro, big news. The vampire princess just transferred to our school.
Zhang Shu came back in from the hallway, looking thrilled. Yu Xian frowned. This is just a regular high school. What's she going to learn here? The Supernatural Academy taught knowledge of the extraordinary world, completely different from a normal school. Could it be his cover was blown and Nora came to kill him?
No idea. But she really did come. And she's stunning. Definitely the most beautiful girl I've ever seen.
Zhang Shou said excitedly. At that moment, Chen Ling walked in from outside, equally excited.
Do you guys know why the vampire princess transferred here?
Wait, you know again?
Zhang Shou looked at her, stunned. Chen Ling lifted her head proudly, chest out, nose upturned as she smiled smugly.
Come on, it's me we're talking about. There's no school gossip I can't dig up at Silver City number 3 high.
You really are the gossip queen of our class. All right, spill it. Why'd she come here?
Zhang Shou asked eagerly. Chen Ling glanced around and lowered her voice.
It all started when the princess got attacked. You'll never guess this, but her attackers were all regular people.
And what does that have to do with her transferring?
Zhang Shou asked, confused. Chen Ling looked smug.
My bestie Zhou Jai from the class next door has a second cousin working in the Public Safety Bureau. Word is the attackers didn't use any supernatural powers, just regular people with silver weapons. Once the news got to her school, she got iced out.
Yeah, that's pretty embarrassing.
Zhang Shou got it now. If he had powers and still got taken down by normal people, he'd feel pretty ashamed too. Students at the Supernatural Academy are proud and sheltered. To them, Nora losing to humans was a disgrace to the entire supernatural world. Of course they'd shun her. Nora already held a delicate position in the vampire hierarchy. And since the bullying wasn't physical but more like cold shouldering, there wasn't much her clan could do. The vampires are strong but not dominant. Besides the powerful official factions that can suppress almost all others, there are also the elves, witches, cultivators, martial artists, and many more who can rival the vampires. In the end, Nora transferred schools, but she didn't choose another city's supernatural academy. She came here, probably because no matter which supernatural school she transferred to, word would get around, and she'd still get the cold shoulder. So why not come to a regular school? After all, as long as vampires live long enough, they naturally become more powerful. At 2 p.m., the class bell rang. Homeroom teacher Old Chen walked into the room. All eyes turned to the door as a tall girl with long golden hair and a bandaged right arm walked in, her aura icy and distant. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Every boy in class simultaneously switched out their dream girl. Even the girls were captivated. As a supernatural being, Nora's beauty was flawless, simply too perfect. Though number 3 High had never officially picked a school bell, the moment Nora arrived, the boys silently agreed. She was it, no question.
Starting today, Nora will be studying with us.
Old Chen cleared his throat. Once the student snapped out of it, he started his usual rambling. Nora scanned the room, then subtly glanced at Yu Xian. Truth be told, 25 million isn't pocket change. That kind of money leaves a trail. Considering age and gender, the vampires had no trouble locking in on Yu Xian with just minor help from their outside contacts. Originally, the plan was for Tang Bo and his team to capture Yu Xian, and Nora would be the one to kill him. But after learning more about Yu Xian, Nora's father changed his mind. He ordered Rocky, Tang Bo, and the others not to touch him. After all, Yu Xian had only just become a vampire. He was about Nora's age, a perfect sharpening stone. If Nora could hunt and kill him on her own, it would help her grow. At the very least, she couldn't afford to get caught off guard again like some dumb duck waiting to be slaughtered. In vampire society, a father's order is absolute, so Nora transferred. Some of what Chen Ling heard was true, some wasn't. Yes, some students at the Supernatural Academy were avoiding Nora, but she didn't care. They were never her crowd anyway, and she never felt the need to please anyone. After the introduction, Nora was assigned a seat in the 4th row on the right in line with Yu Xian. Her first gift was Daywalker. At age 10, she awakened her second gift, Blood Flame. As much as she wanted to burn Yu Xian alive for turning her into a joke at school, she held back. In her mind, Yu Xian probably had high resistance to light and fire, just like her. She wasn't sure her blood flame could take him down instantly. If she failed, Yu Xian's vampiric regeneration and male strength might give him the upper hand. So she had a backup plan, a silver dagger. Her current plan was to blend in with the other students and lower Yu Xian's guard. Then, when the moment was right, she'd strike, drive that dagger straight into his heart. It would be a one-shot kill. Finally, the school bell rings. Yu Xian slips out of the classroom in silence, leaning against the corridor railing as he stares blankly into the distance. A cold wind hits, and he shuts his eyes. But before he can inhale the fresh air, that putrid stench snaps his relaxed mood back to dread. He's deathly afraid of dying, especially the slow, painful way his father did. Having managed every detail of his father's care, he knows the hell of relying on machines to breathe, swallow, move, total paralysis, eaten down to nothing but a brain. Yu Xian can picture it, a fate way worse than his father's. When you've been there, you feel it. Call the cops. Yu Xian takes a deep breath and makes up his mind. Yeah, he's not human anymore, but that doesn't mean he's lost his humanity. A real man knows his limits, but he'll charge ahead even if the whole world stands against him. If his cover's blown, he'll just hide in the mountains till he's unstoppable. Screw it. Let the vampires try to find him in the wilderness. He doesn't need blood or food, just sunlight. He can outlast anyone. Lao Zhang, lend me your phone. Yu Xian walks to the window and calls out to Zhang Shou, who's bent over chatting with Chen Ling. Where's yours? Zhang Shou pulls out his phone, unlocks it, and hands it over, tossing in a question. Yu Xian shows his cracked phone with a sigh. Screen's busted. Dunno if it can be fixed. With that, he walks back to the railing and dials the security bureau. Hello? I need to report something. Yu Xian's heart pounds. As soon as the line connects, he blurts out, "What would you like to report?" A voice asks from the other end. Yu Xian steadies himself and says, "I'm reporting an invasion of xenomorph worms in Silver City. Lots of people are already parasitized. It's an emergency. You need to Oops! You found me." Suddenly, the female voice shifts to a shrill male tone. Yu Xian's eyes bulge. He freezes, sunlight warming his skin, but doing nothing to chill the ice in his gut. Who the hell is on the other end? "Since you figured it out, let's play a game. Thanks for the call, cutie. Try not to die." The voice is casual, like they couldn't care less about being exposed. Beep, beep, beep. The line goes dead. Yusin grits his teeth and crushes the phone in his hand, fragments crumbling to the ground. Damn it, did the xenomorphs infiltrate the security bureau? Before he can think, a blinding light erupts from the distant chemical plant. A deafening explosion shakes the ground, shattering school windows. Students scream and duck for cover. Parasitized students rise from their seats expressionless. As if on command, 6 3-meter red tentacles burst from their backs. Students who've just recovered from shock stare, wide-eyed and gasping. Zhang Shou, mid-conversation with Chen Ling, vaults through the window onto the corridor. A tentacle whips out, coiling around his neck. Then silver light flashes, and the tentacle falls, severed. Yu Xian concentrates the silver blood in his fingertips and barks, "Get behind me!" As he speaks, he sprints to the window, flips into the classroom, and slices through the tentacle around Chen Ling's neck mid-air. Thanks. Chen Ling sinks against the wall, gasping for breath. Yu Xian yanks her behind him and snaps, "Stick with Zhang Shou, don't leave my side." He swats aside incoming tentacles, grabs a chair, and swings it like a club, smashing an advancing xenomorph to the floor. He crushes its head under his boot, then spins the chair like it weighs nothing, knocking down xenomorphs left and right. The chair's a toy to him. With a ton of raw strength, he'd wreck these bugs if he had a real weapon. Problem is, no weapon. The chair's already cracking after a few hits. Holy crap! Did you cheat to get that power, Shan? Zhang Shou holds up his own chair, gaping at the scene. Chen Ling's eyes sparkle as she whispers, "Since when was Yu Xian this hot and badass? Quit gawking. Save people." Yu Xian shoots them a glare, annoyed. Students lie unconscious where the xenomorphs hit them, some probably dead. And then there's Nora, the so-called vampire, dangling by a tentacle around her neck, her legs kicking wildly. Yu Xian thought she transferred to take him down. One look at her flailing though, and he's sure, a regular Joe could beat her. "Xian, help!" Zhang Shou blocks a tentacle with his chair, but it's torn from his grasp. Yu Xian turns, frowning. Other classrooms are overrun. Xenomorphs pour into the hallway. With doors front and back, they can't hold the room. They need to retreat to the roof, only one entrance to defend. "Fall back! To the roof!" Yu Xian hurls his chair, knocking down the xenomorph that grabbed Zhang Shou's chair. He leaps over desks, smashes a xenomorph choking Nora, throws her over his shoulder, and charges out. Surviving students scramble after him. They barrel through the hallway, xenomorphs flying or exploding under Yu Xian's fists. 6 floors total, they're on 5. In under a minute, they're on the roof. Yu Xian dumps Nora with Chen Ling, spins to block the door, and kicks a pursuing xenomorph down the stairs. He slams the door shut. Yu Xian leans against the door, gulping sunlight to recharge. The others pant, hunched over, sweat soaking their clothes. After a beat, Zhang Shou blurts, "What's going on, Shan? Why are there so many xenomorphs here?" "No way! Did the ones from Wrong City follow us here?" A student cries out, terrified. Chen Ling snaps, "No way, my ass! They're right there! But what do they want?" She looks to Yu Xian for answers. No clue. Yu Xian sighs and shakes his head. He really doesn't know the xenomorph's plan, and that mysterious caller? The one who can command them with a word? Bad news. This isn't safe. Once they take the building, they'll storm the roof. I can't hold them off alone. Look for anything we can use. After resting, Yu Xian stands and scans the group. Xenomorphs aren't mindless zombies. Hiding won't cut it. What if we tear down the barbed wire to block the door? Zhang Shou suggests immediately. The roof's edge is fenced with barbed wire. Yushin could rip it down with ease. It's 4:30 p.m., 2.5 hours till dark. If we can hold out, my guardian Roach will come. He'll save us. Nora mumbles, cheeks burning with shame. Truth is, she feels useless. She came to kill Yushan and now he's saving her. It's not shyness keeping her quiet, it's humiliation. She's strong, has blood fire as a trump card, and yet she froze like an idiot. So damn embarrassing. This is taking too damn long. 2.5 hours? By the time your guardian shows up, we'll be Xenomorph Chow. Yushin knows he's blown his cover with Nora. When her guardian arrives, the others might be safe, but he'll be a target. And let's be real, it's only been 10 minutes since the Xenomorphs revealed themselves, and most classes are already infested. If they charge in full force, he can maybe get 1 or 2 people out by jumping, but the rest? Dead meat. Lao Zhang, take some guys and hold the door. I'm gonna grab a weapon. Yushin stares at the barbed wire, thinking aloud. Maybe wrap it into a bat. Worth a shot. I got a weapon. Nora blurts out, yanking up her bracelet, and poof, a red pistol materializes. Space gear? The class gapes at Nora. They've heard of space gear online, but this is the real deal. Anything else? Yushin takes the pistol, aims vaguely, and hands it back. Bullets mean nothing to him. He's never fired a gun. Doubt he'd scratch a xenomorph before running out. Nora pauses, then pulls out a dagger 1/2 meter long. Silver blade. Not sharp, but it messes with vampires. Be careful. Silver, huh? Yushin smirks as he takes it. Nora's face flames. He knows why she's here. Thanks. Perfect timing. No bullshit. This blade is a lifesaver. To everyone's shock, he crushes the dagger into a silver ball the size of a lead ball, takes a bite and grins. Hungry as hell. Nora stares up at him like he's a goddamn alien. No sunlight weakness, eats silver. Since when do vamps do that? Did Roche's intel suck? This is messed up. After absorbing the silver, Yushan's skin burns hot. His senses spike. He can hear a pin drop 100 meters away. He takes a breath, and his skin turns pitch black. Yushan! Changsho gasps. I'm good. Better than good. To others, he's a black hole. Before he absorbed light, but still reflected a little. Now, no photons, no reflection, just pure darkness. Daylight's barely enough to see him. At night, he'll vanish. And the best part? He heals in seconds, powered by endless sunlight. Stay here. I'm clearing the lower floors. Once adjusted, he gives a grim smile and heads out. As soon as he's gone, Chen Ling whispers, he must have taken the forbidden fruit. What's his ability? Doubt it. Forbidden fruit users start at Eagle rank. He wouldn't waste time on bugs. Nora can't help but interject. Since the fruit's emergence, countless have gained powers. With messy tier systems, top elites unified the ranks. Insect, ant, bee, sparrow, snake, eagle, wolf, tiger, dragon, god. Insects the bottom, gods the top. Even insects can wipe out humans. As some big shot once said, don't think you're hot shit cause you got powers. You're still bugs to the real players. So what rank is Xian? Jiangshou turns to Nora. Maybe upper insect or lower ant. You think he could be a vampire? A vampire? Ha! Since when do vamps sunbathe and snack on silver? The group laughs. Nora wants to argue but can't. No sunlight weakness? Maybe a daywalker. No silver vulnerability. A silver eater talent? But new vamps can't have 2 talents, let alone turning pitch black. Nora's starting to think Roche's team messed up. Narrator. Maybe Yushan's cash went to silver food, not turning. After all, Blood Clan jacked up silver prices to gold levels. She'll need to talk to Roche. Can't blame an innocent guy. Downstairs. Yushin strolls the 6th floor corridor, fingers flicking like he's playing piano. 3 xenomorphs split into chunks. 40% of his blood is now silver blood, letting him shoot sharp silver threads, flexible, tough, and the stuff of nightmares. They cut through walls like butter. More xenomorphs pour from classrooms only to get shredded before they can charge. A teacher-possessed xenomorph sees this and panics. All units attack. Enemy sighted. Kill. Xenomorphs flood the hallway, but Yuxian's silver threads fly. Yuxian looks to the end of the hall. The teacher's gone. Figures. Adult hosts are smarter. Distant artillery booms. Silver City's finally fighting back. Silver City, Kongshan Psychiatric Hospital. Xenomorph swarms tear into medical staff. Dean Chen Chingsong, curled in his office cabinet, not daring to breathe. He never imagined the hospital held so many parasitized patients. Xenomorphs in psych patients are wilder, pain-blind, and faster than those in normies. A security guard fires one shot before getting ripped apart. Now he prays for a miracle, or at least a timely rescue. The office door crashes open. A gaunt man in a patient gown strolls in like he owns the place. Dean? Dean Chen? Where you at? It's Joe Tai. The man whispers, scanning the room. He stops at the cabinet, rapping the door. In there? Not in there? In there? Not in there? After a beat, he shrugs. Guess he's out. Had a juicy secret to tell him too. As he turns to leave, Chen Chingsong lets out a silent breath, eyes bulging. Joe Tai! The hospital's most dangerous patient, multiple personality disorder with every alter a psycho, serial killers, skin flayers, cannibals. Normally strapped 24/7, he's not only free but unattacked by xenomorphs. Human or monster, Chen wants no part of him. But fate's a bitch. Just as he thinks it's over, the cabinet door yanks open. Joe Tai grins. Found you, my dear Dean. He slams Chen into a chair and sits across from him, grinning like a shark. What do you want? Don't do this, or I'll... Chen's voice shakes. Or you'll what? Lock me up again? Ha 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 ha. No one's locking me down ever again. His eyes flicker, from manic to terrified in a heartbeat. Am I sick, Dean? Check me out. Take my pulse. He shoves his hand on the desk, needy. Chen freezes. Joe Tai rambles on. Crazy world, right? A parasite tried to jump me. Scared the shit out of me till it picked my weakest alter. Now we're parasitizing it. Its body's a goddamn tank. You're saying the real Joe Tai's consciousness was replaced by the xenomorph, but your alters took over its mind? Chen's pupils shrink. He can barely speak. Joe Tai nods eagerly. Bingo, Dean, you get it. So are you human or xenomorph? Chen's sweating bullets. Joe Tai's mouth splits into a grin, tentacles erupting from his eyes, nose, mouth. His eyeballs bulge on tendrils, almost touching Chen's face. A tentacle splits open, hissing, I'm human, you moron! Chen's pupils roll back. He's dead of fright. Boring! Joe Tai retracts his tentacles, sneering at the corpse. Suddenly he lights up. Got time to kill? Why not go play with that cutie from earlier? His expression shifts rapidly, ending with a greedy stare at the body, another alter taking over. If Chen were alive, he'd realize Joe Tai's alters are like viruses in the xenomorph hive mind, hijacking bodies and issuing commands at will. Silver City third high. Yushin carries a legless student back to the rooftop, gently lowering them. Laozhang, round up the guys. 6th floor is clear, but we got wounded everywhere. On it, Jiangshou nods, other boys rising with determined grunts. I'm in. 2 people can handle the injured. Me too. Nora wants to prove she's not useless. Yuxian doesn't argue. Too many hurt. But on the 6th floor, they stagger into Class 6 and gag. Half-eaten bodies, mangled faces, a literal horror show. You guys okay? Nora checks on Chen Ling and the others, pale-faced. Yuxian quirks a brow at Nora. Figured they'd puke. Didn't expect you to hold it together. Vampires don't puke, genius. Nora rolls her eyes. It hits Yuxian. He's grossed out but not sick. Vampire biology, right? No human weaknesses. A xenomorph charges from the 5th floor. Yuxian flicks a silver thread, slicing it in half. He's got this. Silver blood. Nora's eyes blow wide. That's her dad's 150-year-old ability. Why does Yuxian have it? She stares, mind reeling. Truth is, she knows jack about silver blood. Dad never ate silver in front of her. She only knows it controls threads, or she'd have connected the dots sooner. Minutes later, Zhangshou and the rest regroup. Yu Xian leads them in. Zhangshou grits his teeth. Others follow. Over here, she's breathing. Yu Xian finds the first survivor, a girl missing hands, feet, and half her face. Everyone's faces harden. Wrong City Massacre was just a phrase before. Now, horror doesn't even come close. Once Zhang Shou and the others steady themselves, Yu Xian doesn't hesitate. He heads downstairs to keep clearing xenomorphs. If it weren't for the survivors on the 6th floor needing immediate aid, he'd have gone straight to the 1st floor to wipe out every last bug in the building. With Zhang Shou handling triage, his job is simple: kill xenomorphs fast and save as many students as possible. "Wait, I'm coming with you," Nora blurts out, mustering courage. Yu Xian turns to look at her like she's a golden dumb goose. Before he can refuse, Nora snaps, "Take me. I'll get you 20 jin of silver next time. Deal." Yu Xian nods instantly. Silver's as precious as gold these days. 20 jin will last him ages. On the 5th floor, Yu Xian flicks silver threads from his fingertips, shredding xenomorphs mid-gnaw. Nora pulls out her pistol, aiming at distant bugs. Bang! A xenomorph explodes. Yu Xian raises an eyebrow at Nora's gun. Didn't expect it'd pack such a punch. "I hit it! I actually hit it!" Nora stares at the corpse, hyped. She spins to face the next wave, squeezing the trigger. Xenomorphs burst like overripe fruit with each shot. 4 classes per floor, 5 to 10 xenomorphs per class, 30 to 40 per level. Nora's pistol holds 15 rounds. When it clicks empty, she fumbles to reload. Xenomorphs surge from classroom cover, only to meet Yu Xian's silver threads and come apart like paper. Clear on 5, they hit 4. Rinse and repeat. Nora lures with bullets. Yu Xian cleans up during reloads. Ammo holding up? Yu Xian asks as they descend to the 3rd floor. Loaded for bear, 100,000 rounds. Ever since the normal people attack, she's been stocked to the teeth. 3rd floor's a 60-second slaughter. They clear it in sync, then push to the 2nd. "You're a vampire too, aren't you?" Narrator. Nora trails behind, voice tight with conflict. "Yeah, I had ALS, turn or die. Heard you got hit because of me. Sorry." He'd already braced for exile when he called the cops. After this, he's vanishing to the mountains till he's untouchable. So that's the deal. Nora studies him, torn. On the 2nd floor, Nora opens fire, reloading while eyeing Yu Xian. The remaining xenomorphs charge, only to be sliced into grotesque confetti by his silver threads. Just then, the teacher who escaped earlier bursts from a classroom and leaps to the courtyard below. Not so fast. Yu Xian grabs the railing and vaults after him. Before he lands, bang! The parasitized teacher's upper half erupts. Nora waves from above, pistol in hand, golden hair catching the light, enough to make Yu Xian blink. He revises his earlier thought, not a dumb goose, a pretty dumb goose. Suddenly, Nora's eyes go wide, scream ripping out, "Look out!" A shadow blurs past. Yu Xian reacts on instinct, diving. Too slow. A limb tears away with a sickening snap. Thunk! A rectangular sign crashes onto the stairs. Yu Xian's blood trickling between the words, "School ahead, slow down," to pool on the ground. Clutching his stump, he turns to see a woman in a business suit perched on the school wall. "Hey there, cutie. Came to play." Narrator. She grins maniacally, voice male. "You're the bastard from the phone." Yu Xian's eyes flash silver, rage sharpening his voice. "Guessed it. I'm Jotai. Used to be human, now I'm xenomorph." The woman drops to squat beside the teacher's corpse, tutting, "Such a waste. Strong body, no clue how to use it." Bang, bang, bang! Nora fires from above. Bullets aimed at Jotai's crouch. No explosions. Jotai catches the rounds in midair, rising with a smirk. "Bullets are slow, you know. Xenomorphs could dodge them if they weren't still playing human. Even awake, they're stuck in meatbag habits. Subconscious keeps them weak. Human muscles have safety limits to prevent tearing. Most xenomorphs hold back, stuck at 50% power. Not Jotai. He's a self-destructive maniac. In this body, he's all gas, No brakes. Catch, sweetie. He flicks the bullets at Nora. They collide with silver threads mid-air, erupting in flame. Yuxian's body is pure shadow now, silver threads lashing out like living weapons toward Zhou Tai. The female body controlled by Zhou Tai was tall and slender, easily 5'7". Normally, even when morphworms filled a host body with tendrils, their movements were still limited by human anatomy. But Zhou Tai was different. When faced with slashing silver threads, his body twisted like a deflating balloon, contorting with reverse joints to effortlessly dodge the attack. Immediately after, the skin on his arms burst open, unleashing a mass of writhing tendrils that twisted together into thick, blade-like limbs. "Take this punch!" Laughing maniacally, Zhou Tai leapt into the air and hurled a heavy punch at Yuxian on the ground. Danger! Yuxian rolled sideways in a panic, but the searing pain from his severed limb slowed him down. Missing one arm meant he'd lost his deadliest melee move. Boom! The ground caved in under the force of the punch, leaving a half-meter deep crater. If that hit had landed, Yuxian would have been pulp. Kneeling on one leg, Yuxian drove his left hand into the ground, sending silver threads bursting through the concrete to form a wide net aimed at Zhou Tai. Just as the threads tightened, Zhou Tai's skin melted like wax, splitting apart as tendrils wrapped in human flesh squeezed through the gaps, slithering with the eerie grace of an octopus weaving through coral. In the blink of an eye, he had reformed into a humanoid shape, with slime still dripping from his fingertips. That micro-control! That transformation speed! Yuxian's pupils shrank. Zhou Tai's command over the morphworm body went far beyond the limits of any normal parasite. Then Zhou Tai's gaze locked onto the severed arm a few meters away. The ruptured stump suddenly sprouted tendrils, dragging the dismembered limb back toward him. Now the morphworm's most terrifying ability revealed itself. Tendrils drilled into the severed arm like nerves, seizing control of it instantly. "Your arm works great, little brother. Let's keep playing." Zhou Tai charged forward, flinging the severed arm as he ran. His speed was 3 to 4 times that of a typical morphworm, his snake-like movement pattern making him impossible to predict. On the school field, the two launched into a deadly chase. Yuxian backpedaled while firing silver threads, but Zhou Tai twisted his body like he was dancing. The severed arm lashed out, barely grazing Yuxian's scalp multiple times. Though the silver threads were sharp, they missed the tendrils by just a fraction each time. Instead, Yuxian was the one constantly getting grazed. Thankfully, his vampire healing kicked in, sealing the wounds almost instantly. Narration. Bang! Narration. Nora's gunshot shattered the deadlock. Zhou Tai leaned back just in time to dodge the headshot, the bullet blasting a fiery crater into the ground. An opening! Yuxian lashed out with his left hand, silver threads slicing forward like a storm. Zhou Tai tried the same escape move, but just as he squeezed through the net, Nora blew off half his torso with another shot. He tumbled away and leapt into a tree, his twisted face warping into a scowl. "You bitch! I was playing with my little bro. What are you butting in for?" The only reply was a barrage of bullets and silver threads. The tree trunk he'd landed on exploded into splinters, forcing him to leap backward onto the perimeter wall. Even as he retreated, he couldn't resist shouting a threat. "Wait for me, little bro. Next time we'll really have fun. And you, stupid bitch, I'll definitely kill you." Before the words even finished, he backflipped off the wall and vanished. He had originally planned to fight until his body gave out, but Yuxian's severed arm clearly held some secret. Calculating his odds, he decided to retreat and study it. Yuxian and Nora stood frozen for a long moment. Once they confirmed the threat was gone, both collapsed to the ground. Yuxian stared blankly at his severed arm, cold sweat soaking his back. Without Nora's help, he'd be dead. Nora jogged over. Their eyes met, and suddenly, both burst out laughing. The absurdity of surviving left them slightly hysterical. That thing was terrifying. I've never seen anything so disgusting. She sat down beside Yuxian, her voice still trembling. But we drove it off. Just as the words left his mouth, he felt a gun barrel press against his lower back. He raised his only remaining hand and gave a bitter smile. "So now you're gonna do it? My father's patience is running out. He sent me to kill you. If I don't, Someone worse will come. She lowered the gun, her tone conflicted. Here's a tip. Find a way to join Kylin. Kylin? You mean the mythical beast of good fortune? It's a government agency. 3 years ago, a vampire joined them, and the Blood Clan immediately called off the hunt. Kylin, a state-backed organization. Yushin's eyes lit up. Compared to hiding in the mountains, this might actually be a more realistic path forward.